Welcome, Kala. Welcome, Cat. Audio testing 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I got turned back on again. So, since we already have two people, I figured we can start right away. On today's trip, which happened, let's see the date, on the 5th of September, 2022. Um, this is like the last week when we're in London, so we're kind of wrapping up a little bit. But we're going to take a trip to the far southeastern corner of the city of London to some interesting historical sites. And some places where you would never imagine you are in the capital city. Oh, sorry to hear that, Cat. Well, you can enjoy a little bit of this. So, where we'll be going? Let's see. Okay. In our first set of slides, we will be heading downtown to the so-called Square Mile, the original Roman city of Londinium, which is sort of like a separate legal entity from the rest of London. The so-called City of London, not to be confused with London. And this is where all the big financial institutions are. They're all big banks, and why there's so many, tax shelters around the world is because technically they're operating under separate City of London jurisdiction, all this kind of stuff. Um, so I saw a couple of the big banks, including the Bank of England. I don't think I took a picture of that, but um, and then we eventually got down to the Roman walls, which are you can see in some places. So we'll do that area first. And obviously, if anybody has any questions, you can just ask. Um, so let's see. Actually, we're gonna go to Google Maps for a minute here, and City of London Corporation, which is yeah, it's more like that. So we can get a border on it. Yeah, it's this. This is you guys can kind of see that, and the red is the City of London versus Greater London. And then we'll go back to our pictures. Yes, I took lots of pictures of cool buildings. That's a good reason to visit a big city. Yes, Cat. There's no mods on this channel. There's too few subscribers at this point for the heat of those. Um, so we're heading downtown, and of course I was sort of on the, left side of downtown. You just take Bishopsgate Road, which takes you to one of the 7 gates of the City of London, just Bishopsgate. Um, so here are some of the Roman walls in amongst all of the big financial buildings. The Romans did like to build out of bricks. Now, as I recall, the original Roman walls um, were built out later on during the Middle Ages in several different locations whenever they needed walls again. So some of this is kind of medieval and some of it is originally Roman. Um, it's not all exactly Roman, but yeah, there's a little park, like a little linear park. You can see some of the walls when you go downtown. The London Wall Walk. The London Wall Walk follows the line of the city wall from the Tower of London to the Museum of London. The walk is 1 3/4 miles, 2.8 kilometers long, and is marked by 21 panels that can be followed in either direction. The city wall was built by the Romans circa 200 AD. During the Saxon period, it fell into decay. From the 12th to 17th centuries, large sections of the Roman wall and gates were repaired or rebuilt. From the 17th century, as London expanded rapidly in size, the wall was no longer necessary for defense. During the 18th century, demolition of parts of the wall began. By the 19th, most of the wall had disappeared. Only recently have several sections again become visible. This is panel 15. St. Giles Cripplegate Tower. This medieval tower marks the northwest corner of the Roman and medieval defenses. Most of the Roman wall was completely rebuilt in the early medieval period. In 1211 to 13, a new defensive ditch was dug around the outside of the wall, and soon after a series of towers were added along its western side. This tower survives to 2/3 of the original height. It would have been wooden floors. Would have had wooden floors. In peacetime, the towers were rented for a variety of uses, and some were occupied by hermits. This tower may have been used for this purpose since in the 13th century the hermitage of St. James in the Wall was built nearby. In 1872, when the area was redeveloped, the crypt of the hermitage chapel was removed to Mark Lane, where it still survives. Although the city ditch was eventually filled in, and the churchyard of St. Giles was extended up to the wall, the tower survived, became almost buried in earth, dumped to raise the level of the churchyard. It was uncovered during Barbican redevelopment of the 1960s. Always building new things downtown. Here is the walkie-talkie building, which, when it was built, famously melted a Jaguar car along the street on an unusually sunny day in London. It had to be redesigned to be less reflective, so it didn't melt any other cars. This may or may not be the Bank of England, I forget, but it was an interesting building nonetheless. Now we come to the Tower of London. This is a very touristy area, and frankly, I do not recommend it. It's like $60 entrance, and it's a total ripoff. So, like, yeah, it's a C. I don't recommend it. It's okay, but it's not great. Super, super touristy. They have the crown jewels and a bunch of other stuff in here. It's kind of eh. You're not supposed to take pictures of the crown jewels, but I think I did, or some people do certainly. They're not that impressive. I'll say that. Um, but anyway, we did that. So we went to the City of London in the morning. We went to the Tower of London in the early afternoon, and then something else, which you shall see in the late afternoon and evening. So yes, that is exactly my attitude towards the Tower of London right there. That lady has it right. We bought some tickets. I bought a ticket, and then you have to wait because they only allow you people in groups at a time. So it was about a 30-minute wait to get in. And there is the um, Tower Bridge. There is the right Trader's Gate. That's like the boat entrance to the tower. A number of prisoners were brought in that way back when the Thames was a major highway right into London. And every major like palace and major house in the city had like a water gate like that. So now we enter, and this is the famous, Tower of London where they have the beefeater guards in their fancy garb. We'll see that in a bit, but um, Bloody Tower, 1225. Torture at the tower. Mm. I remember in this scene there was a guy who was talking to one of, I think, the guides, and he's saying, "Oh, you have all this amazing ancient history here. It's 1,000 years old." And I was thinking, yeah, dude, I was at a place 2 days ago that's 6 times older than this. That's 6,000 years old. And I can tell you how to get out there. You just gotta be willing to walk through some farmers' fields for a mile or two and do some goat droppings and cow patties. But once you get there, that's some real history for you. That's actually ancient history. This is yesterday compared to that. So I want to say that out loud, but I was like, yeah, this place is a lot older than this. I mean, a lot older. There's a lot more history than this in this little island. Um, but anyway, it was good for people watching. I'll say that. I don't think that clock is 1,000 years old, though. I don't think so. Those walls are, but not the clock. I do like the bridge. That's good to know, Nemo. Welcome, Nemo. You and Ulmer can commiserate about past times. Yes, it's nice to have Cat here and Catla. And they have some of the famous guards who are totally, you can't distract them. You can't, and you can get in real trouble if you really try to harass them. Uh, and that basically counts as a bright day in London. A bright, shiny blue sky by the country standards. And there's a shard on the other side of the Thames, actually, in Suffolk. And now we go inside. This is, I believe this is very much not English stone. This is brought in from the continent when William the Conqueror wanted to show the English that he was not one of them, and he was not going to do any native, anything. He was a foreign invader, and he's going to show it off. So he brought in French limestone because there's no limestone in this country, not in that sense, at least. There was like an arms and armor display, which was interesting. There's a much bigger one at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but which I actually went to 2 days before I left for this. Uh, on this trip. Raven's Shop. Way Out. Fusilier Museum. Crown Jewels. Toilets. Now you'll see some of these like cast iron animals all over the place. And I think they have something to do with like the Crystal Palace or something. There was a 9th century Crystal Palace, and then they had this new technology to cast iron in very um, particular shapes and so on. And this was a display of that. And then eventually the Crystal Palace was torn down. They had to move them somewhere, and they moved them to here or something. I don't know. So I'm sorry about that. Um, this is very touristy. Map Man. And now we come to the Ravens. Okay, see you later in a bit, Nemo. So they keep a bunch of very tame ravens at this facility. They're like royal pets or something. Considered. Um, and unlike the ravens that live around me, you can walk right up to them and almost pet them. Not quite, but almost. That they will interact with humans very closely, which is interesting to see. They're magnificent animals. Luckily, I do have some that live right near me, but obviously you can't get within 100 feet of them. So I have like a bird watching telescope, and some of my cameras have very, very long lenses, so you can do that if you can find one. But these guys you can literally walk up to pretty much. They're very magnificent animals. Uh, quite large, obviously. I mean, they must be 2 feet long. Uh, They can always defend the castle against the hordes of foreign tourists. The Raven Cafe. I will say, after seeing the whole castle and the crown jewels and everything, I would say the birds that I like. Honest to God, I spend more time watching them than anything else. Anyway, I think we've left at this point, and we're heading south over the bridge to London Bridge Station to head to Bexley, which we'll see in a moment. Yes. So now we're in a very, very, very different part of town. I will switch to the map. Thank you, Calla. So here we are in London, and we are staying up here in Haggerston and Shoreditch. And you head downtown, and here's the Town of London, Tower Bridge, and actually London Bridge Station are here. And then we're going to, let's see if we can do this. Yeah, we're going down there. Okay, so Bexley, Bromley, Orpington, Bexley. So we're going to end up via the local commuter train like this. It's about 40 minutes. And you end up over here. Now, Bexley is one of the 32 boroughs of London, which is on the edge of the city limits. And we're actually going to walk almost to the edge of the city. So Swanley down here is is a town in Kent, in southeast England, which is around here. That's Swanley. And then you go over to Bexley up here, and you're within city limits. Welcome back, Nemo. You missed the birds, but you made in time for Bexley. So at this point, it is 4:20 in the afternoon, and we've entered a very, very different area than downtown London, even though we're still technically within London. We're in the outer suburbs. So you get off the train station, and you see this. And then, oops, we're going to skip ahead a little bit, but go back to the map. So from here, from Bexley, we're going to walk a little bit, and we're going to end up in Joyden Wood, which is this general area. So here's Joyden's Wood, which is um, a forest park basically. It's a woods area, but it's a public park. And that was actually the first when I got off the train was one of the first times I ever saw like school kids. I was here for a month, and when you're downtown, there aren't many children except maybe tourists. But when you get out to the suburbs, there's actually like actual people with actual families and stuff. Um, so I got there just as school was letting out, and then you have all these kids commuting home from wherever their school is on the train, and that was an interesting sight. Um, I never saw that before. I've been in this country for a month. You didn't see any normal people. Um, oh, that's good, Nemo. So then we went up the road and we ended up in Jordan Wood. Now, Jordan Wood has a whole bunch of different things to see, but one of the things is this crater, which was created by a German bomb during World War II. Apparently, during the Blitz, one of the German bombers came over, and we don't know exactly why, but they dropped their bombs in the middle of nowhere in Jordan Wood, and so it created this crater, which you can now see. It's a visible reminder the war is still around. Later on, a couple days later, I took a tour, downtown London tour, and there's definitely like, shrapnel damage to buildings downtown. You can see, pot marked from the German bombing. So that's always interesting. um, so this is the crater. It's probably about 6 or 8 feet deep. If you go in the bottom, you can't see the rim. It's above your head. It's probably like 20 feet wide, 30 feet wide, something like that. And I'm guessing that the charred wood is from the blast. Um, I did actually find little metal bits in the area. I'm not sure whether those are parts of the bomb or what the story was, but there's definitely little metal bits. They look pretty old, rusted around here. Um, and this woods you have to place to yourself basically. It's very much low population density around here. Uh, but anyway, now we went on from the crater and we're going through the woods. I liked all these nature scenes when I was there. I like that those parts of my trip where I was able to go somewhere and walk through the woods or through fields and not encounter any people. I like those parts of the trip. You could experience like the quiet of the countryside. Take a train or a bus down to the quiet of the countryside. So this is the Fosteik or whatever it is. We're seeing a couple pictures of it. It's when you're there, it's pretty obvious. It's difficult to picture though with a 2D camera, but in your 3D vision, it's very easy to see. So this is a ditch or a dike, which is probably 15 to 20 feet wide, about 3 or 4 feet deep. That was built in, I think we're going to get to in a moment. That's like 537 AD, not 1537, but 537. So it's like 1500 years old, and it's believed to be built as the border fortification, if you want to put it that way. But really just like a border marker between the territory of the rapidly entering, let's put it that way, Anglo-Saxons when they were entering Britain via Kent, and so the Anglo-Saxon territory of Kent from the Gallo-Roman territory of London. So, in a certain sense, this is almost like the oldest border of the city of London. It's 1500-year-old original border, which is very close to the modern border for obvious reasons. I found interesting. It's like a natural border, so you can kind of see a little bit of a ditch in here if you look carefully. It very obviously kind of dips down a little bit, but you can kind of see something in here. I like these pictures. You can have a sense of the terrain. But you can see kind of a ditch in there. And then the sky opens up here. Again, when you're there, it's very obvious. But with the camera, it's hard to show. And it's broken up in a couple places. It's probably much longer originally, but it gets plowed over time. Um, so we left that, and this is the typical trail through Jordan Wood. This reminds me of a park near where I live. It looks similar to this. So here's kind of like the complete trail. You start on this side. This Anglo-Saxon dike was a defensive structure built 1,500 years ago to keep Roman Londoners out of Saxon Kent. The Feiston Dike. Uh, something path on the eastern bank, western bank, ditch up to 8 meters wide, profile of the dike. Yeah, that's about right. Then we came to a place after that where a Spitfire was crash landed um, during the Blitz, um, and the pilot obviously crash landed here. Was picked up, went back to his base, flew another plane the same day, and kept on flying and flying and flying. And he was actually killed like two weeks afterwards. But this marks long afterwards, obviously, where that crash was like a Blitz memorial. And again, there's like little metal parts all over the place. It's kind of interesting. Um, Makes you think they're artifacts of the war. 11:45 a.m. on Monday, 7 October 1940. While in combat during the Second World War, pilot officer Ian James Muirhead's Hawker Hurricane, probably it's a hurricane, was shot down over Jordan's Wood, right next to like literally like a mile or less from the crater we saw earlier. You can still see metal fragments of debris in north of the wood. Indeed, you can. Muirhead of 605 Squadron successfully bailed out but was killed in action 2 weeks later. Woodland Trust, Heritage Fund. Okay, it's Lancodema. Yes, I have like I can do that sometimes. Like it can be right underneath my nose. I'm not seeing it. And here, I believe, is an example of the Kindle mushroom. So this is like a hard mushroom that obviously grows inside of trees. And if you take it off, there's like this underside is soft, and you can rub it, you know, um, and you can sort of break up the material, and it actually serves as kindling. And you can maintain a fire by starting kindling inside of the mushroom, and then you fold it up on itself, and it stays kindled for like at least a day or so. And you always have poured on fire that way. It's a very ancient technique. Because of course fire in modern times is very difficult to actually start. So if you can simply transfer kindling from one fire to the other, it's a lot easier not to have to start to begin with. So if you have a campfire one night, you simply find one of the mushrooms, you put some of the still smoldering ashes inside of the mushroom. It'll preserve the um, the ashes from burning out because it'll begin to burn very, 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 very slowly. The mushroom, and then when you come to a new fire the next evening, it's still smoldering there, and you don't have to start fire again. So this is a kindling mushroom or um, a fire mushroom. It's got various names. But if you know what to look for, it's there. Here's a burnt tree. I don't know if that's related to the war or something, or just a forest fire. I don't know what that's about. There aren't really forest fires in this country, so. This seat is dedicated to the memory of Irene Kathleen Miles, the Woodland Trust. And now it's like 6:30 in the evening. It's getting dark. It's not quite dark yet, but it's coming up. Um, so all this was taken around golden hour. The sun is definitely setting. And like the sun is like streaming through the sides of the trees. Very magical time walk to the woods at dusk. I think these pictures are taken from that bench. I just took some time out and appreciated the woods. Me too, Cal. Heading down the path. Now, in order to get here, you had to walk through some roads in Bexley, but then you walk off of them to this little alleyway which goes behind um, people's houses. There's like a walled back garden, people's houses, and there's a little alleyway which must be 3, 4 feet wide, barely wide enough for two people to go side by side. Um, and we're gonna come back that way later on because there's some interesting things along the way. But we walked out there to get here, begin with. So we see that in a moment. Thank you, Cal. And then as you exit, there's a building on one side of a fence, and they have these statues. You have a Roman soldier and a Saxon soldier, carved from a big giant block of wood. And this is what it looks like on the other side of the fence. Face one way, you see the statues, and you face the other way, you see this. There'll be much more Lord of the Rings coming out in about 1 week from now. In loving memory of Ron and Sheila Hall, lost and found, now together forever. Hmm. Lynn Truss, at the bench. And now we're out um, on the streets of Bexley at about 7 evening, 7:16 evening. So it's just about set. Turns out Bexley has a guard cat just like Dover does. And just like in Dover, this one it watched me as I left the area, let's put it that way. It watched me very carefully. I didn't really want me being there, I don't think. So now we come to the alleyway between houses. Um, and it passes by a whole bunch of these fields, which overlook some parts of Bexley and then some parts of Kent. So you can actually literally see beyond the edge of London from the edge of London, which I find interesting. So, and yeah, this is pretty late. We're 7:20 in the evening, and the sun's gonna set in less than an hour. Actually, like 30 minutes, 20 minutes now. But it's also golden hour, so I think those houses might be outside the city limits. When you're on this path, there's basically nobody else there. I feel like you're sneaking through the countryside between people's houses there. It's just fascinating. And the nice thing about walking through the countryside in this country is you don't have to worry about ticks. They don't have Lyme disease there. There's hardly any bugs at all, really. Um, and that's basically the path. You can almost see at the edge of the. See, it's one side is the left side, one side. That's basically the path we're walking on. And with the sun just about to set, this was a very magical moment. I originally planned on coming here earlier today, um, but then I got distracted by the London Tower and all that. I'm glad I came later. Clouds are always dramatic in that country. I noticed. It's always overcast, but it's like a broken overcast. And so like sunset becomes very backlit and interesting. Here's the path, where you're going, where you're coming. And this is kind of what the alleyway looks like. And now, if you take a little a side quest off the path, which I encountered on the way in, you will encounter St. Mary's Church and Churchyard, which is an abandoned, it's basically an abandoned church at this point, and an abandoned cemetery in the back. What's more fun as sunsets than to visit an abandoned, spooky graveyard? Why not? So it's not naturally this bright. This actually was taken with a flash. But it's more like this. It's now 10 minutes to 8 in the evening. So I'm going to go romping through an abandoned graveyard at dusk. St. Mary Cemetery, a living churchyard, living meaning abandoned, and all the things that might grow there. There are the gates that'll lead us out of here. There's the church. The Church of England is shrinking, So they have to abandon certain properties. And then I saw this. This is how I got out. I saw this gate as I was approaching the alleyway, Joy Wood. I figured I was going to come back this way for sure. It's on 8:04 in the evening. That's some Dracula-looking clouds up there. This reminded me of reading Dracula many years ago when he first landed in England, uh, and I think he was in a coffin, and they were going to bury him at some remote church on the edge of London, and then he got out before they could bury him, and then the opened casket was discovered, and he was loose on London. I remember those passages from the book, and it reminded me of this. This could be in London or it could be in Transylvania. John Thorpe, historian and antiquary, lived here circa 1750 to 89. London Borough of Bexley. And that, if I can look at the map, is the River Cray. And here's downtown Bexley. And I had dinner here at a place called the Bexley Taverna. Let's see if we can bring that up. Uh, yes, right down here. This place is the most amazing Greek restaurant I've ever encountered. It is, oh my god, I had a feast. A little expensive, but like the service is place is amazing. It's just like it's the owner who's got to be 80 years old or something and doesn't really speak English. He'll serve you. And then it's um he has like the daughter is like at the host desk at the front, middle-aged daughter, and then he has a son who's in the kitchen. And it's these little tables and his little entrance, and you get in there, it's packed. But then there's a lower downstairs and there's an upstairs. And the upstairs you can only get by reservation. And then, but they individually serve you like every table, even though the owner, I don't think speaks English, but he serves you well enough. And he just looks very old school, very old world. Like you're transported from Thessaloniki or something. Oh my God. Um, and everything on the menu is delicious. And they serve you this like Greek sodas and all this original Greek stuff. And I had an appetizer, Greek appetizer was amazing, and then the main course, and then and then dessert. And the bill was a little steep, but you have this is one of those places. If you ever visit the UK, you have to go to the Bexley Taverna because it is so good, and try to get a reservation to go to top level. But this place is like it's this little hole in the wall, but it is so quaint and so old world feeling. It just oh yes, I had kebabs like this with chips, and oh my god, and the salad. Oh my god, it was so good. kind of like this or something. Oh, it was so. I still remember this. And then he had this sauce you see on the top here. Oh, that was so good. And that's about the size of the entirety of the dining room. Like just that. There's a little bar on one side with all these Greek liquors on it. And then that guy in the background, that's the son. That's the son who's in the kitchen. And it's like one assistant or something. And then, yeah, I don't see the father here. He's probably somewhere. But yeah, this place was. Mm, mm, mm. And they're so attentive to you and they're just like hovering over you. You want something that, oh my God, yeah. I wish I could have gone back to this place. Now, there's a lot of Greeks where I live in the country. Like a lot of Greek restaurants and stuff, so I'm used to this. But so when I see a Greek restaurant somewhere else, I typically go there. Um, all right, I see it. Okay, and that's the daughter in the background there. I remember seeing this place does not change. This place does not change. Oh, this. Oh my God, see this down here? This is some sort of like it's like tuna and potatoes and this was so good. And you put this on pita. It's I don't know what it's called, but that stuff was my appetizer, and you gotta get that. If you're ever down here, you gotta get that, whatever that stuff is. Oh, that was so good. And then I had yeah, something like this for dessert. Oh, I remember this place. Kiftadas, and then you got a bunch of oh yeah, this stuff, and then you got the mushroom. All right, enough of that. Um, yes, that's exactly right, Cal. That's what we're here for. We're just here to chill with each other and have some fun for an evening. Anyway, back to Bexley. And then here's another house. Stileman's Almshouse. Erected in the year 1755. Tempest Fugit. Time flies. With a sundial. So the museum of the house, which I showed you a couple times previous, was like a museum that was near where I was staying in what is it called, Shoreditch, and that was also an almshouse. So I found it interesting. I came to another one here. So if you were poor and you are qualified, at least, you could obviously get a room and board and such like an almshouse. Was for those who had nothing. You could original form of public charity. And then I've had a couple of interesting pictures here from London Bridge Station, which is a very photogenic station. If you want to take pictures, this is the place to do it. It's very cinematic in a lot of ways. And this is how I got to and from Bexley. And you can see above the well, near the number 7 sign, it's open. The station is open in some places, and you can see some of the surrounding office buildings, which is obviously interesting at night because you can see into the windows and such as people close up the office. So you're in this building, but you're also surrounding a whole bunch of other buildings. You know, in the busiest cities in the world. If you come into Waterloo Station, which I did later on at night, you'll get a very similar effect where it goes right to the heart of the city into all these, business districts, and um, you see them go past you when you're on a train. It's fascinating. Um, Way out to the underground. Yeah, she's up in Sheffield, which is a ways away. The Peak District in Sheffield. I don't think Batgirl wanted. I think I actually asked her something at one point, and she did not meet up. So and we step outside to see the shard. It'll be up there in a few days. I had tickets to the viewing platform, which I do not recommend it either. It's not that great. It's also very expensive, but they want to charge you like $50 or something. You can see things, but London is not the kind of city you see very much from on top. It's not New York. It's pretty flat. It's pretty uniform. I don't know. It's not worth the money to me. So yeah, I took this. Got some tickets. The view from the Shard. And this is where I took my bus to get back to my place. And here's some pictures I took with my Panasonic camera, which are numbered differently, so they're kind of at the end here. But the pyro mushroom, if you tap on the top of them, they're so hard they actually they have like you're knocking on wood, but on the bottom they're soft. And then I saw this interesting spider along the path. Okay, it's still relatively early, so we can do a couple more slides. This is the next day, which is the 6th. We have 6 days or so left in, well, 5 days left in London. So I just look ahead here. Oh yes, this was the day of the London City tour, which again, I don't totally recommend personally. It's not. Um, Part of the problem is it's 90 minutes, and you're trying to cover 2,000 years of history, which is really difficult to do that in 20 minutes, okay, or 90 minutes. There's so much history in this country, you really have to focus on something. Otherwise, you're going to get like the Cliff Notes version of everything. Um, and I kind of already knew everything we're going to do, so it's not like, right. It was nice to have like a guide tour downtown, but it's like you know everything in advance. Um, if you don't know much about London history, it's probably good, but it was so for me. Um, and we started in Covent Garden, um, which is an interesting place. I do recommend you go to Covent Garden if you go there. But I didn't take any pictures. I don't think, or I did, or I remember doing it, but somehow it never came through. I don't know. So, but it's like a covered garden, as they say. But it's like a Victorian indoor bazaar, kind of like a market. Um, we have like a hallway and a glazed roof, and then it's like shops on either side on multiple levels. Um, Interesting place. It sits at the location where the Saxons built a town right next to the Gallo-Roman city of London. They couldn't enter London when they invaded. So they built like a parallel town on what is now Westminster. And the center of their little market area in the middle of their town was what's now Covent Garden. Or something like that, I was told. I was told something like that. Anyway. This may be Piccadilly Circus. I'm not entirely sure. See if I can see something. Yeah. It's a circus because it's like this curved arch of built up buildings in one unified development as a circus. Oh, it's Finsbury Circus. Pardon me, Finsbury Circus. You can see that right here. So we're in Finsbury, West London. I didn't visit West London very much. I was staying on the East Side, so I didn't visit the West Side very much. Or I was in the South End, but not never really West End very much. Much posher in this side of town, I would say. Welcome to Petticoat Lane, established 1650. And this is kind of like the Japanese area of town, I think. Neighborhood. Finsbury Park. Astral House. And we're quite nearby to St. Pancras Station, where we left for Dover earlier. Like the people watch down here. See all these people. Oh yes, Nemo. You're right. This may be the Old Bailey, which is the main courthouse in London. The Royal Courts of Justice. So we're coming up on London, as represented by this rampant dragon. And then we have Queen Victoria with the many symbols, I guess, of the Victorian era. This is probably a war memorial, but I'm not sure. So that says 1880 Temple Bar. Not quite sure what that's about. Now there is Dwight, who is our tour guide um, during the London History Tour. And there's some of the Blitz damage. And you can see them some patched stones in the upper right. And of course, Bob is everywhere. There's always Bob. He's taken a tour too. Shrapnel damage from the Blitz, Kala. Okay, guys, I think I'll call the night at that. If anybody has any questions, I can field them now. We already did Wales, Kala. That was when we went out to Tinkenwood. That was like 2 weeks ago, I think. That was that was last week, and then yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. Right. Okay, that's okay. Sorry, you might have missed it. Um, Anything else? Okay, guys, I'll call it a night. I'll see y'all later. Thank you for stopping by, Kala and Kat and Nemo.